Welcome to Dysfunctionally Yours, the podcast where we embrace the chaos, laugh through the struggles, and find hope on the other side of trauma. I'm your host, Brittany, and if you've ever felt like your life was a beautifully messy roller coaster of dysfunction, trust me, you're in good company. Here, we'll have real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous conversations about mental health, relationships, and healing, because let's be honest, life isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean we can't come out of it stronger and maybe even smiling. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of bubbles, and let's navigate this wild journey together, dysfunctionally, but never alone.
Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Dysfunctionally Yours. I am your host, Brittany, and this is going to be a slightly unhinged, relatively emotionally tender edition. Why, you ask? Because that sounds so out of the norm for me. Because this week sucked. This week, for me personally, was just a really hard week. A lot of my core values were really put to the test. I have learned over time that some of my deep rooted core needs for like me personally, like these integral needs that I need to feel valued. Like I want to feel like I am contributing. I want to feel like I am a valued member of a team. I want and need to feel heard, like what I'm saying matters and is of some importance. And whether it's right or wrong, I can take feedback like a champ, but I still want to feel heard. So I have these needs just to feel like valued and heard, respected, included, things like that. And so because I have all of those like deep rooted needs, when I don't feel like they're met and I don't feel like they're going the right way, it really causes a lot of just other complications, right? So this week, ultimately, I felt very unheard in a lot of areas, but that led me to feel really insecure about myself, insecure about decisions, secure about my place in a team. So that really kind of sucked. And then from there, those big things taking such like a hit, like a chink in the armor, so to speak, led to this whole other thing. Like then I would get home and that wall is now down. That emotional barrier, so to speak, has been poked at and is a little broken, like a little water balloon, right? Like you just start to poke it with a little needle and then all the little water starts to come out. And by water, I mean all the tears from my face have fallen this week. So from there, then that barrier is down. And so now I have lots of really big feelings about my brother. I have been missing Chase fiercely this week. And the thought of him brings me to tears. The pictures of him bring me to tears. God forbid I see a video of him. Tears are falling. And so it's just been a really rough week. And so that has been tough. That's been tricky. It's been tricky for me to navigate. So I'm going to jump into my ache and relief. My ache and relief of the week. So obviously my ache is that it was just an emotionally brutal week. I did everything that I could to take care of myself, right? I had conversations I needed to have. I rested the way I needed to rest. Yes, there were days that I was in bed at 7:03 p.m. with the sun shining bright on my face. I spent a lot of time quiet, like no TV on, no radio on, just like to feel the feels, to be with myself, and be able to really process that. And that's okay. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm really good about not consuming alcohol when I'm in that space because why? Like, why should I do that? We're not trying to make matters worse. And so just lots of tea. I've been like a little old lady all week, just sitting around, sleeping before the sun goes down, drinking sleepy time tea at 6:30 p.m. That has been my week, and it's okay. And it's all right. My relief of the week, with all of that being said, is like, this glass of bubbles. What? Can we get a round of applause for this glass or the first glass before this one? Let's applause. Okay. But no, for real. Last weekend, I did round 2 of karaoke. And so girlfriend was there. 2 of my cousins were there. That was very cool. Like a cousin that I don't see often. he was there, and I love that journey for us. It was really great to see him. And then my son, like Caden, was there with his girlfriend. And so it was just like a lot of fun to go to karaoke and shoot the shit, have a couple beers, sing a couple songs. It was a good time. Watch my friend get serenaded by a random stranger. We love that journey for her. She hated it. She was mortified. And what do you do when somebody is mortified while they're being serenaded to, except pull out your camera and take a picture? So that happened, and I love her. But it was a good time. And so with that being said, like I've been out 2 weekends in a row at this point. I probably cannot commit to being out again until July. So we'll see how that happens. But I imagine that the next couple of months, I will revert back into my little hermit shell, and that will be okay. Brunch is not considered going out. So if you want to hit me up on the telly and be like, hey girl, hey, let's get some brunch, you know I'll be there. 15 minutes notice. I don't even care. I'm there. So that's fun, right? That's a good time. Anyway, I was supposed to do something totally different with this episode. What I had planned was not what's going to happen. I finally was going to make an episode talking about my brothers because you guys have been asking, and I have not produced one, and life had other plans for me. So instead of that episode, we are doing this raw and ridiculous Ask Me Anything Q&A that I have thrown together today. I had a whole other episode. I tried to tweak it. I tried to modify it. I was hitting up the creative director at like Dark 100 for me to be like, hey, help. What do I do? Where do I go? I tried to make something else work. It just wasn't working. And everything kept turning out really messy and started to take like this negative path. And that's just not my vibe. That's just not, I know I say a lot of wild things that are actually probably like, what? Did she just say her mom tried to drown her in a bathtub? Yes, I did say that. And also, so I know that it's heavy, but like, we're not going to focus on it. Like we're going to sprinkle glitter all over that and just keep it moving. And that was not the turn this week's episode started to make. And it's like, okay, that's not where we need to be. All that being said, when I started this podcast, I did say life is hard sometimes, that growth and healing is not linear, that we have our good days, that we have our bad days, and that regardless of that, I was going to show up. I was going to show up however I needed to show up for this podcast, for this community, for us, and still be very true and real and authentic to myself. So I am not this super negative person. And so I didn't want it to turn into that, which is why I've like totally taken this pivot, and I will circle back to where I was originally going to go. That episode, it's already prepared. That episode to talk about my brothers, it's coming. It's just not coming today. So stay tuned. And we will get there. It's just that is my brothers, much like my children, are this very, very beautiful, sacred part of my life and my soul. And I really, whenever I talk about them, like the four of them collectively, right? I just want that to be very intentional and very safe for everybody. Whenever I feel kind of like icky and dysregulated, like I was feeling very emotionally dysregulated. And that's not how I like to show up, but B, that is not an energy that allows others whenever I'm talking to feel like it's this safe space. And we want no regrets. We want zero regrets about any of the things that we say on this podcast. So with all that, we're going to do this AMA. We're going to do the questions that nobody asked for, or I mean, I guess maybe you did, and give you the answers that you probably don't need, but you're going to get anyway. And we're going to laugh a little bit. We're going to deflect a lot of it and maybe reflect a smidge. So I'm here and I'm honest and I am 100% winging this. I got a bunch of questions. I put it out today on the socials and was like, hey, ask me anything, write in, ready, set, go so fast. And I got that call to action was well received, and we have cards. So I haven't had a ton of time to prep them. I don't know if I have answers for them, and we're going to go for it. Hold on. I need these cards. These are my ending cards, but Okay, these are all Q&A cards. We're going to mix them up. There's multiple questions on every card, so we're going to try and get through as many of them as possible and hope for the best. So brace yourself. Go get a drink if you need one right now, and let's get to it. We're going to come out swinging, apparently. All right, number one. You know what? I'm not going to keep count because I'll lose count. So this one says, if you had a parrot, what would you teach it to say? Cunt. I would teach my parent, false. I would teach my parrot to say cunt. It is my favorite word. I don't think that it gets said enough. Why and why? Can we change that? I was actually just talking about this the other day and was saying that I really adapted it into my vocabulary. I don't know, 6-ish plus, maybe 6-7 years ago, whenever I was watching Love Island UK. So it was also at the start of my my reality TV journey, and I was watching Love Island UK, and they say cunt a lot, and not in this necessarily negative way either. It's just a very flippant word that they just toss around like confetti. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I am so here for this. Can we use this word more? Now, I have no problem saying it to be like mic drop because I know it's going to stop a sentence. I also have no problem just like throwing it in there the same way somebody would like throw in a much more casual or socially accepted word. And I don't care. And I love it. And I feel like if you were paying attention, or if you watch the YouTube, not everybody hears this or watches this on YouTube, they stream it. But if you're watching the YouTube version of this, I have a hoodie that has a little dinosaur on it that says, don't be a cuntosaurus. And it's my favorite. I love it. I do remember when I got it, my son was like, Mom, you have children. I'm like, you're an adult. It's fine. So, people have feelings about it. And my personal feeling is that I love it. That's what I would teach my parrot to say. Is soup something you eat or drink? It is clearly a food. Nobody was ever like, I'm so thirsty. Let me go get myself a cup of soup and show back up with some chicken noodle. So it's food. What is your toxic trait? Well, I'm a Leo, so that could be it all by itself. That could be an identity all by itself. That very like superficial, like needs to be in the limelight, loves attention, la, 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 la. That could probably be it. Although I don't necessarily agree, but I do tend to have a huge energy that has the ability to take up a lot of space, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that that could be pretty toxic sometimes. And like if I'm in a mood, if I'm in a bad mood, that big energy is just as big as if I'm in a good mood. And that negative, like bad mood energy has an ability to just suffocate a room. Whether I say a word or not, I don't have to say words. 0 words need to be spoken. And that like that energy, it goes, the ripples are huge on it. That can be hard, right? And so while I think there's a lot of times in the land that's a really like awesome trait that I have, I also can see that there's the negative side of that, Sometimes that negative energy is big. I think that's probably my biggest one, is that I can't hold that in. I wish that I could. Like, there's not a poker face here. There's not a, even when I'm like, I didn't even say anything. Like, I know that when I'm like, I didn't even say anything, people are like, yeah, but you were existing in that moment. Sorry. So I think that can be pretty toxic because I also lean a lot into it. I know this too. Like, right? Big brains up here. We're not talking about the polar bear brains from last week. We're talking big brains up here. And so I do know that I don't always have to say anything, and that not saying anything says a lot of things. So it's a blessing and a curse, and it's a positive trait and a very toxic trait that I have. Hey, hi, my name is Brittany. Have we met? What is your love language? Like, not the usual ones, but an unserious one. Wine. Wine is my love language. Just bring me wine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Can you describe a moment when your mental health shifted for better or worse, and what helped you through it? I love this question. I wish that I had more time to like think about it and prepare for it, but I didn't, as previously stated. When has my mental health shifted for better or worse? Obviously, I think in moments of time, it's done both, hands down. there's been pretty profound moments where it has shifted for the worse, being like things that I've talked about already on the podcast, really realizing that I didn't have an identity that took a huge toll on my mental health. But then there's been other moments in time over the course of this journey where my mental health has definitely ebbed and flowed. I know there was a moment in time where I was in a really complicated relationship, and when we broke up, I was devastated. And I remember spending a ton of time in bed again. And I hadn't spent a ton of time in bed for a very, very, very long time. And my son's girlfriend at that time, she'd come hang out, she'd lay in bed with me. And so obviously my kids were older. So she'd just come, she'd lay there. I would just kind of cry and cry. And I think that the kids took some turns being like, is mom good? You got mom? Okay. And they just go about their business. Like, so there's been times like that, I feel like relationships take a toll. And I don't know that we always give them enough credit. Like, we sit on the outside and we're like, oh, it was just a man. Oh, it was just this. It was just that. And we don't give another person that same space to be like, yeah, but this rocked a world. Like, this was a person. This was a human that you invested so much in, potentially saw a future with, whatever. And so those things can be really hard. And then I'm not sure what got me through those moments, probably just time, and also knowing that I'd already done it before. So there's something to be said about already having gone through things before. So did the end of that relationship suck? Yes, very, 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 very much so. And there was residual consequences that came after that. But ultimately, I think getting through it, like, I'd already been through this. I'd already been divorced. I'd already really suffered horrible losses. And so it's like, okay, well, I know this sucks, but also I've been through worse and I don't feel that bad. Like, that bad, as in as bad as the last time. I don't know if that's the best way of thinking about it, but I've been in worse situations and I know I'm going to be able to plug through this one and we're going to keep it moving, right? There have been times where my mental health has really shifted for the better and I have felt it. You can feel it. It feels like this weight, like bricks are being lifted off of your shoulders or something like that. And so I know that day that I was like done with the rattlesnake, period, just done. I could feel it. I could feel this mental shift in my brain that I was like, I will never care about that again. You will never hurt me again. You will never get to disappoint me again. You will never make me feel bad about myself again. And I no longer am worried about trying to make you happy. And there's something really, really, really cathartic about that. And I've been able to feel that. And then I think to bring it like more recent of things I haven't yet talked about, right? Prior to Chase's death, I was living the best life I'd ever had. That year prior to him dying was genuinely the best year of my whole life. Like, I had I had great things going on. And then him dying put that at like just screeching halt and did a lot in my brain because it touched on a lot of suicidal stuff from my past and the things that come up in guilt and just processing that. And so that was a little bit of a process, but in getting through that, I feel like I handled that in a much more mature way. Not always. There was moments that I was very unwell, but for the most part, right? Like, I knew immediately I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. Therapy immediately. Right? Like, immediate therapy after this. I had a very large group of friends at that time. And I think there were a lot of conversations had that, hey, I'm not in my best space. So if we're spending time together and you see that I'm not in my best space, tell me to take a walk. Kick rocks, Brittany, go take a walk. And I'm going to respect you if you do this for me because I'm not trying to make things worse. I had some friends that gave me a lot of grace, that gave me some massive forgiveness, that were like, damn, like, you showed up like a complete, like, bleep, 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 bleep today. And also been there, done that. Here's your grace. Don't do that again. And so I think there was a lot of things that helped me through that, but also just knowing, I'm not in that same space. And B, knowing that coming out stronger and more healed on the other side of this, no matter how long it takes, is going to be what's A, in the best interest of me, but B, what my brother would have wanted. I think that there is a lot to be said about learning from past experiences and that self-awareness and getting you through certain situations. So I don't know if that totally answered the question, but that's where my brain took me with 4 seconds notice. The next one says, if they made a movie about you, which actress would you want to play you? Once upon a time, I used to want Liv Tyler to play me. I just thought that she was just such a lovely, lovely human. And I was like, I would want her to play me. But I was like, I don't know that she, or in any role that I've ever seen her in, has sort of like that grit that I would need her to have. So I have sort of like put her over here, like maybe as we keep aging, she can play like the older version of me, and maybe I'll be as soft and lovely as Liv Tyler. Also, at one point in time, I wanted Angelina Jolie to play me, and she's gorgeous, so who wouldn't want that? But it was also, there was some grit to her. And I don't know that I feel the same way today, because I'm like, I just feel like she exudes this different level of like sex appeal that's not that I don't. So she might not be the one either. So she's me in a fantasy world, but like not in reality. In a fantasy world, I am probably Laura Croft, but that's not the reality I live in either. So who would I want to play me? Oh no. I don't know who I would want to play me. I think, could I have like Charlize Theron play me? And I don't know that she's much too pretty, but we've watched her tone it down in Monster. And so we also know that she can have that like very other versatile role, right? She's not always so lovely and cute and endearing. And so I'm like, could she do it? Could it maybe be her? I'm not sure. I think in my brain, I would love to be like this Jennifer Garner type, like this very like girl next door, so sweet. That's not me. Maybe I'm going to land on Charlize Theron. Let's circle back to this one at a different date. What were your 2025 resolutions and how are they going? My 2025 resolution, my biggest resolution of 2025, and it wasn't so much a set like, this is what I'm going to do in 2025, but it was just this overarching, I want my life back. I want my life back. I just talked about how the year before my brother died was probably one of the best years of my life. And I lost all of that after he passed away. And I want that back. And so that was very much my thought process. I want to do what I want to do. I want to love my life. I want to stop being afraid to go certain places or do certain activities because they make me sad. I am ready to sort of take control back of my life. And how are they going? Well, I think that they're going well, right? Like I started this podcast and it was very much a like, no, we're taking this back. This is yours. This is what you want. Go do it. There have been some insane boundaries set on friends and family this year. And I think that that was really, really, really important because that was something that was really pertinent in my life prior to his passing. And I gave a lot of that up trying to be, I don't know, who I thought I needed to be after he passed away. And so now I'm like, nope, you know what? That doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do that anymore. So I would say that my resolution to just have my life back is going great. I think it's going great. And it's only April. So I am actually so excited to see what happens the rest of the year. What do you think of the recent female space crew? So awesome that everybody got to go to space. That's so great. I have zero other thoughts other than how great that was. However, B, I guess I do have more thoughts. My problem is coming from some of the things that are being said afterwards. And like Gail King coming out and comparing herself to famous astronauts, calling herself an astronaut. I don't know that just because you go to space, that makes you an astronaut. I don't know what the actual definition of astronaut is. Hold on. Let me look it up. Okay. The actual definition is a person who is trained to travel in a spacecraft. So I guess in that sense, they are all astronauts. However, I just can't get behind the fact that like they have this amount of money that was able to do this for them. But the other astronauts that they're comparing themselves to are actual like scientists and people that are going to do very, very, very important things. And I don't think that money should be able to buy a title like that. Because if that's the case, potentially by the year 2040, we could all be astronauts. And if I had the money today, apparently I could be an astronaut too. So I don't like that. But I mean, cool for going for 4 seconds. What are the biggest green flags in a partner? I think the biggest green flags in a partner right now are really understanding personal needs of not just like me, right? I'm not saying like understand my personal needs, understanding your own personal needs, like your own self-awareness, green flag, your own knowledge of who you are, where you want to be, and where you're going in your life, green flag. Your ability to understand that I am who I am and my needs, and then being able to like integrate that together. Not saying that they need to be the same, not saying that we need to always agree. Green flag. Being able to listen, just to listen, green flag. I probably don't need you to solve not one fucking problem that I have. Just listen and shut up. Like my cats. Just listen, look at me, smile and wag your tail a little bit, and we're good. Green flags. Bring me wine regularly. Green flag. All right. Have you ever written a letter to your past self? I have not. Yeah. You know what? Did I write a letter to my past self? I feel like as a therapy exercise, I wrote a letter to like myself and past self to my parent. I don't know that I've ever written a letter to myself. Maybe I should do that. Written a letter to your past self. Oh my gosh. The amazing things that I would tell little Brittany. The things that I would tell that sweet little girl who did nothing but survive. I'd be so nice to her. I would tell her so many amazing things about the incredible woman that she would become and the impact that she would have on other people's lives, just so she knew. Just so she knew. You know what? Not only does it get better from here, but also you're going to make a difference. I'd let her know that. If emotions had flavors, what would they taste like? That is a good question. What would they taste like? What would they taste like? You know that, I don't even know what this flavor is. But there was a sushi restaurant that I used to go to in Virginia Beach, and they had these little like green candies. They were like a hard candy, and you put them in your mouth, and they were a little sweet, but then they got a little tart, like not like tart or sour like a Sour Patch Kid, but just like a little tart. And I think that that would just be like, I don't know. I think that that would be like a very cool flavor for like happiness, right? Sometimes it's very, very, very sweet and you're like, oh, how lovely. And then sometimes it's like this bittersweet and you're like, also how lovely because like I can still really appreciate this. And I think that would just be it's a little bit more complex flavor. It's not just like, oh, strawberry Jolly Rancher is what it's like to be happy. But like that, it has this different levels of flavor. I think that would make whatever flavor that was. If anybody knows, let me know. But those little green hard candies in a sushi restaurant, that's happiness. That is happiness. I think anger would be like a blueberry, mostly because I hate blueberries. Blueberries are gross and disgusting and make me want to vomit a little bit. And I think if every time I was feeling angry, I could taste it, I would like probably avoid it at all costs and find a different flavor / feeling instead, right? Instead of like letting this anger come over me, I would know that, oh no, we're avoiding that at all costs because it's going to make you vomit. So I think anger, blueberries, happiness, that lovely little hard candy from the sushi restaurant. Who was my last FaceTime? I had a FaceTime call last night with one of my favorites from back in the day when I worked in the hospital. And I always appreciate chats with all of my little baby birds. Question. I've been reading Bible verses. Do you have a favorite one and why? I personally don't have a favorite Bible verse because I don't read the Bible. I've read the Bible, not start to finish, but I've read massive chunks of the Bible. I used to be very churchy. I stopped being very churchy. So I don't have a favorite Bible verse. I did really like the book of Esther, though. Like, nothing says greatness like a powerful girl. Like, that girl, props to her. Do you have a hidden talent? I can color my ass off. I've said it before. That is my hidden talent. I'm very, very, very good at it. What is something you believed 5 years ago that you don't believe now? 5 years ago was 2020. Like, just to put that in context, 5 years ago was 2020. 5 years ago, I was sitting working from home, like after being told I could never come to the office ever again. And that was weird. So just to put it in a timeline, because 5 years ago seems like an eternity ago, but it was actually like yesterday. So I think 5 years ago, I believed that the worst had already happened and that nothing worse could happen. That everything that I had ever feared and overcome, like we'd already gotten over that hump, and that it wasn't ever gonna, like, nothing bad was gonna happen the rest of the time. And then I don't believe that anymore. Life is life, and there's so much that I can't control, unfortunately. And I will no longer take those things for granted to be like, oh, nothing bad is going to happen to me. Like that, like, I'm never going to be that person again that's like, oh, it couldn't be me. No, it could. I don't want it to be. I hope it doesn't. And also, right? So I think that is it could always happen to you kind of situation. Okay. Is Katy Perry officially in her flop era? Yes or no? And can you justify why you chose the response that you did? First of all, who's Katy Perry? Kidding. Obviously. I know that she's one of our new titled astronauts. What? That's crazy. Can we just take a minute to like understand that what I just said is wild and true based on what's happening right now? Okay. I think Katy Perry is probably, I don't see her going anywhere from here. I loved Katy Perry for like a second. And then I think all of her like bubblegum pop music got too redundant. It had a very cool place in like the gay club. You go dancing and the music is so on point in those clubs, and love that. I think so. She makes a good soundtrack for that. But I haven't really heard anything new from her that I'm like, yes, sounds good. It all sounds the same. It all sounds irrelevant. It all feels like she tries a little too hard instead of just evolving. Like, how about evolve instead of just trying to like garner views? And then I don't really like the whole like go to space for 4 seconds and the videos that they posted of them like, woo, in space having a great time and coming back down, and then she's kissing the ground. I understand that this was it could be really scary, right? I think that like a great unknown is probably really scary, so I don't want to minimize that. But also, like, girl, it was like 4 seconds and there weren't any complications, and I could do the same thing on a roller coaster, right? I could get on a roller coaster and it could be really scary and I don't know if it's going to fly off the tracks, and I could get off the roller coaster and I could kiss the ground and be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I made it back to the ground. But honestly, if I was that afraid that I wasn't going to make it back to the ground, I probably shouldn't have gone on the damn roller coaster in the first place. So Katy Perry, no, pass. What are your general thoughts on this theory? Agree or disagree? Theory: the reason people never actually find Bigfoot on the world or in the wild is because the Bigfoots are actually just aliens that are visiting Earth. Never thought of this theory. I thought that there was only one Bigfoot, sort of like there's only one Loch Ness monster. Are there multiple Bigfoots? I don't think Bigfoot is an alien, but now that you put it out there, I don't know. No, disagree. I disagree that Bigfoot is an alien. I also disagree that there's multiple Bigfoots. There's one Bigfoot. He lives in Colorado, and if you're lucky, you'll see him one day. I don't know. What is your personal hell? My personal hell would be being locked in a conference room with no windows with like the rattlesnake, Casey Anthony. Am I allowed to say that? And trying to decide which one is worse, or trying to keep all three of us alive, because there's only one survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. Okay. What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received? The best piece of advice that I've ever received. What is the best piece of advice I've ever received? I think this is going to sound a little cliche, and so I'm going to explain it, because why wouldn't I explain it? All right. I think the best piece of advice I've ever received is that there is hope. And I've been through a lot of times in my life where I didn't feel like there was hope. And then I've moved past all of those times. And I'm like, yeah, there is hope. It does get better, actually. And then several hours before my brother passed away, I was having a conversation with my brother and he was asking me like, so there's hope, right? So there's hope. And I was like, yes, this and this and this, you have to work for it. You have to put in the effort. You do have to make some challenging decisions. You do have to be in uncomfortable positions, but yes, there is hope. And my brother looked back at me and he said, so then there's hope and we're going to hold on to that. Several hours later, my brother was gone. And I realized in that moment that wasn't necessarily a speech that he was looking for from me to him, but it was definitely a speech that he was helping me remember for myself so that I was going to be able to get through what was coming up. And so I think the best piece of advice that I've ever received, that I've ever heard, and that I've really tried to live my life by is that there is hope and it does get better. What show or series are you currently obsessed with? Currently and always, Schitt's Creek. Currently and always, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, Schitt's Creek. What is your Roman Empire? So something that you can't help but randomly think about often. JonBenet Ramsey. And not just because TikTok brought it all up again, but because always, right? I'm from Colorado. It happened in Boulder. When it happened, I was of an age to really be able to pay attention to the news, read all the news articles, really be invested about this little girl and her parents and all of this. So the fact that it's resurfaced with new documentaries and all of the thoughts and conspiracy theories that go along with it, it pops into my head all the time. All the time. I will always have an opinion about JonBenet Ramsey. So I don't know if that is necessarily a Roman Empire, but I do randomly think about it often, and that is who it is. What is the dumbest argument that you've had that actually taught you something? I'm sure I've had plenty of dumb arguments, but the one that comes to mind is I had an argument about being on time for Sunday Fun Day with a girlfriend one time. And we had decided that we were going to go out. We were going to go to Sunday Fun Day. We were going to go to the beach and we were going to meet at whatever. I don't remember exactly. 10 a.m. We're just going to say we're going to meet at 10. We'll say 11 a.m. All right, great. I get up. I get ready. I make food. I pack coolers. I blow up the gigantic unicorn floaty to float along in the ocean with. And then I'm sitting there for hours and hours watching TV, checking my phone, texting this girl. And it is not until 3 hours after we were supposed to meet that she's like, okay, I'm on my way home. So 2 hours from now we can meet. What? You want to meet when the sun is setting at 3 p.m. in the middle of the summer? Okay, that's dramatic. But I was furious. I was absolutely furious. And so we get into it to the extreme that we don't actually talk anymore. Our values so disconnected on that we're all right, fine. We're not actually friends anymore after this. But it became something that I realized in that moment that was so important to me to do what you say you're going to do. I'm not saying I'm the most punctual person. In fact, last week, I probably said 4 times that I'm not ever punctual anymore. If you think that I'm going to be somewhere at 10 a.m., promise you I'll be there at 10:15. I'm sorry. I try so hard and I just can't do it anymore. But I will be there and I will be there within, 10 minutes, give or take. 10 minutes early, 10 minutes late, but I'm going to be there. 3 hours, unacceptable behavior. Unacceptable behavior. Just realizing that is such a disrespect to somebody's time and who they are. And I realized that in that moment that the reason that triggered me so much was because it's you don't value my time. I've been sitting around here doing nothing when I actually could have had in a whole other half of my day. And that would have been fine too. Hey, let's meet more in the afternoon. Okay, cool. I can do whatever I want until noon and then go get ready to go. Not getting up at 6 a.m. to get ready to do all of this shit. And then you're nowhere to be found. Hello, disrespect. So I definitely learned that I had big feelings about doing what you say you're going to do and being where you say you're going to be. To that point, if I tell you 4 months from now that on August 14th, I will see you at XYZ location at 10 a.m., I promise you, no matter the fact that I said it today, in April, I promise you I will be there in August on the 14th at 10 a.m. at XYZ location. We don't even have to check in again. I'll be there. I promise. We don't need to check in. What is the weirdest thing that's ever made you feel truly seen? I don't think that this is weird, but it is a thing that made me feel truly seen. My brother had just passed away. I was in the gym and I was trying really hard to just power through this workout and I couldn't do it. And I finally collapsed in the middle of the floor. Hysterical, just absolutely hysterical. The gym trainer person at the time comes, sits down next to me, doesn't say a word, not one word, slides a box of Kleenex across the floor without saying a word, and proceeds to just let me cry uncontrollably for as long as I needed to cry. 0 words were said. And I think that in that moment, I felt so seen that it was like, I didn't mean to have this breakdown in the gym. I don't mean to be crying, and you can't fix me. So any words that you were going to say, they're not going to make this situation better. So thank you for just sitting there and being present without trying to fix me, just giving me a Kleenex. There was no hug. There was no words. There was no like, let me rub your back in some weird superficial, like, I hope you feel better way. Someone just sat next to me with a box of Kleenex, and that was powerful. If your ideal partner were this is actually the last one, actually. If your ideal partner were a household appliance, what would they be and why? My ideal partner would be my Keurig machine, because I love my Keurig machine. I love it so much. I love it because it's there for me in the morning, just waiting for me, right? Like, good morning, Brittany. How are you? It produces this warm cup of coffee for me that makes me happy and comforted and calm in the morning. Like, what a way to start your day every day. Here you go. Here you go, Brittany. It's reliable. It's quick. I don't have to wait 100 years to get what I need out of it. It's just there, waiting, ready to go. And, just so reliable and so fast, right? Like if I'm sad, coffee. If I'm mad, coffee. Just like on demand. Not like, oh, but I'm across town, still at work. I'll be there 4 hours from now. I don't need your ass 4 hours from now. I need you right now. Fast, quick, ready to go. Low maintenance. My Keurig machine. All right. So that's it for the, emotionally chaotic Q&A. Props to the people that took the call to action and helped create this episode. Like the people that really chimed in, pulled through, came in clutch. Love you so much. Thank you so much for creating an episode for me. Because like life is messy and life is complicated. And sometimes all that we can do is show up and, show up with a little bit of sarcasm and a little bit of bubbles. And that's all we can do. So I want you this week to just remember to be gentle with yourself, and also remember that it's okay to change plans, to take care of you, and to do what makes the most sense for you. Okay? If you like this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. So tune in each week for a brand new episode on all streaming platforms. The new video version of this comes out every Monday at the same time on YouTube on Dysfunctionally Yours. And you can engage and ask your questions at the Instagram page, which is Dysfunctionally Yours podcast. So like, follow, and subscribe wherever you are listening to this, because you never, ever, ever want to miss an episode. Why would you? Hello. And until next week, don't be afraid to be great. Toodles, poodles, bye. Ugh.